The people of America have voted for freedom. Vice President.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month? Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask me that question? That's the question. Because under Roe v. Wade, you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month, and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
When it turned out to immigration and border security, we know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently than President Biden does?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, why don't you respond?
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the board.
First, I would respond to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. She's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's busing them in and paying them to be there. And then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. The biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. Not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. chance of success. Not only success, steroids.
I just want to clarify here, you bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
I see people on television say people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people on television say my dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you think.
This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congressmember Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if we didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond.
Because I hear that. See, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They had the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration, because what we want to talk about earlier, so let's get back to the deportation proposal that the Vice President has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you have no problem using the U.S. military. You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe the number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made. Crime in this country is through the roof, and we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
As you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
They were defrauding statements. cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with the same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thanks.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest of the appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fawley Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's just a physical wall. A complete and total victory 2 months ago. It was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand that this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to stop
President.
that.
Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy. When you think Russia investigation, that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of it, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands that strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump,
Well, first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up. Very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, women, I'm talking now, you know, mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So, I got the numbers going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was, because they had budgets, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country. And oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar. But they're taking 400, 500 acres of desert soil. These are good things for the environmental shields.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of the president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw it play out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Fades in the West Wing, so you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that is encouraged peacefully and patriotically. I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I asked, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, that's the person I'm talking about, the border. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? What are they going to be prosecuted? What are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David. All over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it. What's those? David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
Well, let me just ask you, you were the president, you were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about you did on that day? Yes,
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. But it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. I want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about the U.S. President, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to explain.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the Vice President-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because we don't like the outcome. And be clear, on that point, Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term. It was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was what bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jessica, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come he's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because it's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the border control, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. So those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue both because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short. Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
Acknowledge that. We don't always say this sarcastically. was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. They got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told that I got 63, which is what I got in 2016. You can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm. Don't spy whisper. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as a clarification, you know this. You and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges. Many of them.
The judge looked at it and said they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you do a special on it, I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you, we have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter. Because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying there.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that they lost by whisper, so he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us, we won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. Now I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States. And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom work with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny that over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
When you just said about world leaders, Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, was it? Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. He got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0
Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians were dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How did you do it?
Let's understand how we're done. On October 7th, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and an equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you ended up far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have
Anybody ever call you out on that shit before?
Israel and the Israeli people. He knows
Sir,
that he's
Mr.
trying to
Mary,
divide
you a Virgo?
and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un, and it is absolutely well known.
Stratton,
Spell it.
Stratton. Okay, and how old are you, Doug?
I'm 66.
Where do you live?
I live here in Abington.
And are you retired?
I am retired, though I drive for a local transportation company.
What did you do when you worked full time?
I was a pastor.
Oh, a pastor.
Yes,
Where?
in Hatboro.
Okay. Are you a registered Democrat, Republican?
I am a registered voter.
Registered voter. Okay, so tell me, you were heading into the debate, I think already leaning towards Harris?
Without a doubt, yes.
Okay, so tell me your impressions what are your first impressions of this debate?
Basically, the mistruths of the former president have been enough to convince me that I want to continue and grow the support for Ms. Harris. Her manner of reaching out and presenting her policies has been quite clear. Mr. Trump has done nothing but go back to his same old 3 or 4 statements.
So did she exceed your expectations?
She has exceeded some of my expectations. She's been very clear with the policies that she'd like. I still would like a few more details on how are we going to pay for the $50,000 small business loan credits, but she's well on her way.
You were laughing at some of what he was saying, like literally laughing. What was
Yes,
that?
I was.
What was that? Was that involuntary or just like unbelievable? Like
It was a combination. It was a combination
A combination of what?
of an involuntary laugh and also just a mocking laugh. His statements have been so far off from reality and truth that the most likely response is laughter, as the rest of the world laughs at him.
Pennsylvania is a swing state, obviously.
Yes, it is.
So, do you think, and it's going to be, all the polls say it's very, very close here.
I understand it.
And she's got to appeal to those undecided voters.
Mm-hmm.
And so does he, quite frankly. They
Yes.
both do. So what does she have to do to get those undecided voters?
Well, I think what she has done, in my mind, should be sufficient to begin to convince them. The other side of that, I actually have a difficult time understanding how people are supporting Mr. Trump at this point. In listening to what I hear, personal defense, not caring about those who are around him, it just is. It leaves me kind of stunned. As a pastor, I can't understand how people who would claim the faith that I do could possibly provide him support.
Gotcha. Anything I didn't ask you that you might add?
I think I've probably dug my hole deep enough.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
See you.
All right.
Air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the
Excuse me.
javelins,
Yeah.
the able
I'm a reporter for the Associated Press.
Okay.
We'd love to talk to one of you about your impressions of this debate.
Well, okay.
Let me, yeah, you'll just look at me and not the light.
Okay.
What's your name?
Robert Dixon.
Robert.
Correct.
Dixon.
Correct.
Okay. And how old are you, Mr. Dixon?
How old am I?
Yeah.
76.
76.
Yes.
Are you from Abington?
No, I'm from right outside Mount Airy, Philadelphia. I'm a member of the church here. I'm a deacon at the church here.
Are you retired?
Semi. I'm an attorney, so we never retire.
You're an attorney. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a Democrat? Republican?
Democrat.
Okay. And who are you leaning towards?
Oh.
Do you know who you're going to vote?
Yeah. Harris. The other man's incompetent, and he's tried to take over the country. You can't do that. You can't have that. You just have to stand up. Some things you don't do.
Let's turn over here.
Okay.
Away from.
Oh, okay.
how do you think the debate has gone?
Well, listen, as I expected, I think Donald Trump has done a lot of lying. He had his own mind, his own set of facts on everything, and he's sticking to them pretty much. Harris is trying to interact with him and putting out ideas and things of that nature. None of that he can address because he's just basically, lying. He's talking about all the people that come into the country, things are going down. We recovered from a horrible COVID pandemic, which he helped precipitate by his complete failure to handle it properly. And, they just want to talk about it, so he just keeps repeating the same old lies. But if you lies big enough, the people, he has a certain percentage of people that want to stick with it.
Do you think Harris is doing, what do you think of her performance?
I think she's doing I think she's doing real well.
Can be expected.
And I think she's trying to hit the points, and she's sort of goading him into him keeping, talking about himself. So
this is a very close election in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is a very important state. So do you think that she's doing enough to appeal to that sliver of undecided voter that she has to get?
I've been involved in election. I used to do a lot of electioneering when I was young. Pennsylvania went more Democratic than it has. It used to switch back and forth. He won. They really haven't won. Republicans really haven't won anything big in Pennsylvania since he won. So I think that we're in good stead with the people that we have in office now. They always vote for Bob Casey. They voted for Bob Casey when he and his father weren't running, but somebody else put their name up in Bob Casey years ago. That guy won because Pennsylvanians evidently like the name Bob Casey. So I think we're going to do well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Understand that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
You talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind.
And the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier. Oh, no. Please, I'll give you a minute here.
He would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men, but he would have been sitting in Moscow, quiet place. He would have been sitting in Moscow. What's happening in Israel? Eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons.
Eat you for lunch.
He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe using that, maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that. Something we don't like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war. Because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin. And she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate as soon as they left to did the invasion.
President Trump, you did bring up something. You said you went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said at the beginning, they're giving her a bunch of lies coming from this room. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I met with him over 5 times. The reality is, it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader, upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We talked about Ukraine and Ukraine. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO, he said, I've never seen, for years we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up. I say, one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you, otherwise we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment to Capitol Hill honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agree with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because of what they do with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved, and Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He's still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than him, and we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago, but she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care which is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something, I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read that she was not black. That she put out. And I'll say that. And then I read that she was black. And that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that. Want better than this. Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, a lot of people, including Bill Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park fight. They admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt the person, killed the person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. She's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She's Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had. A horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad that you can't get away with that.
Briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible. One who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
To defund the police, she has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun. She has a plan to not allow fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else. That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need to respond. The President has said something twice that I need to respond to.
I'm sorry, we're going to respond, Vice President Harris. President Trump, this is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say we're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care. Always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people, I have a lot of good people in this administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely supported over the last 4 years as Vice President private healthcare options, but what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time, when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes, and thankfully, as I've been Vice President, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been Vice President, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am President, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it, Vice President Ross, in terms of where Donald Trump stands on it.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot of
Mistake. And number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't
view of politics. Yeah.
Are you a decided voter? Do you know what you're voting for?
So far, no. I feel like they don't really fit me still. It's complicated. I don't know. I feel like they're both not the right candidate for me, based on this debate and the past debates. I'm still undecided.
Do you think both candidates are staying on topic when it comes to the questions?
That's a funny question. I would say yes, but they're moving around from it. I wouldn't say direct, but they're trying to get their answers across. That's what I say.
One of the topics that we just heard was about gun ownership. And then we heard Harris talking about that she owns a gun.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What's your reaction?
I agree. I mean, there's the Second Amendment and stuff, right? And honestly, I'm fine with that, right? It's about the gun policy. It's not about the ownership of the gun. It's about what rights you have about owning a gun, the policy of getting it, right? So I don't think it affects me.
How do you like her answer? What do you think about her answer?
A little mixed. Again, they don't really go directly to the question, but I think I like her answer. I think she did well.
And then one of the questions they brought up was about clean energy, young voters, and climate change.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. How do you feel about that?
Based on what they said, I feel like it's strong. But again, neither candidate I feel like engaged me in a way for me to agree with them. I do agree that we should spend more time on clean energy and develop more technology to beat climate change. And yeah, what was the other question again? Like the other part?
The other thing they brought up was healthcare.
Healthcare.
Healthcare, that he didn't have a concrete plan at this moment. Once he finds a better plan. What do you make of that?
Well, about healthcare, again, I didn't really do much research about it, but I think that they have both great plans. It depends on, if it goes right, oh well.
He said that Obamacare is too expensive for people. Do you think he was making a good case on that? Not really having a plan so far for him, or what do you think?
Too expensive? I mean, again, I don't really know much information about it. I mean, I just got into politics, I would say, but I feel like if I learned more and understood more and focused and learned about it more, it would be beneficial.
Do you think the moderators are doing a good job tonight?
Sorry?
Do you think the moderators are doing a good job tonight?
I think so. With all this and all the interrupting, I feel like if I was a moderator, I couldn't handle it.
Just very last question. What else from everything they've said tonight? What stands out?
What stands out? Honestly, for me, is about the crowd, right? And because I'm not used to this, right? I come from a different perspective, right? And the reason I'm here is to learn different, broaden my experience with politics. And honestly, I feel like debates are generally still the same throughout all 3 debates in the past years. I feel like they're all the same. And yeah, they're just people trying to get their point across.
Final question. They're getting to final closing statements right now. Who do you think has performed so far?
I feel like, question-wise, I feel like Harris was more direct with her answers and questions, while Trump was trying to bounce around the question and not really direct. But so I feel like Harris did a better job than Trump.
And what we can do together. Do the answers tonight, the performance tonight, change the way you see them, or pretty much
say the same. Again, they're both politicians, right? I don't feel, again, they're not really direct. There's always obviously lies between both candidates, and I feel like they did not change my opinion at all.
And what city you live in?
I live in Waxhaw, North Carolina. No problem. Thank you.
Tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was the DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs. And all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it, because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like, we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just asked one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in a serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world they laugh. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
And we are here live on ABC with our post-debate comments on debate for the Afghanistan. They had it all, and it was historic. John Carl, fiery.
Wow, that was quite a debate. And I'm Jonathan Carl here with Mary Bruce and Rachel Scott. Our reporters across the news division have been updating our live blog, looking at some of the allegations made back and forth, doing fact checks, and all that on ABCnews.com. But I would like to replay a moment at the very start of this debate, because it was quite a moment. The handshake.
Thank you.
I mean, first of all, we haven't seen it. It's sought him out, put hands out, and also made the first one. So not the bottom line. All right.
I think
try to get to a Discord.
clearly what Kamala Harris wanted to do was be a candidate of hope. the candidate of the future. Donald Trump seemed angry within 4 minutes. I think we saw him going from very serious at the beginning, never really seemed to look at to really yelling at some points, trying to make his point. I don't think there were a lot of policy plans on either side of that.
I'm going to go on this side because people will be sitting on this side.
And what we had was
Much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together. That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force.
Not just angry, but also loud. And in contrast, Harris, who again, much of the world doesn't know, Harris looked like she belonged on the stage, looked like she is somebody that can serve as president.
And that is certainly how the campaign is feeling tonight. I can tell you the Harris campaign feels very good. They feel they had a very strong night, that she wasn't coming, that she did look presidential, and that she was able, they feel, to hold Donald Trump accountable for his actions. And of course, that was their goal going into this, that she could be able to put Donald Trump's record under a microscope. And they feel that the strongest example of that is that exchange on abortion, where she was able really to blame Donald Trump directly to his face. I mean, she said, what are putting women
Check.
Perfect. Can we start by getting your full name? And
Yeah.
spell it out for me?
Ryan Hughes, RyanHughes.
And tell me, how old are you and where do you live?
I am 26. I live in Charlotte.
Do you mind taking a small step back?
Yeah.
There you go. Tell me, what do you make of tonight's debate?
I thought it was definitely interesting. I don't know how much it's going to move the needle for anybody that still hasn't made a decision yet. I thought they both had good moments, both had bad moments. Particularly with Trump, I think that he got baited a couple times with some of her personal jabs, like his rally sizes, people leaving his rally early. She brought that up, I thought, very strategically during the abortion segment. During the immigration segment, knowing that that's kind of a weak spot for her. And so I would have liked to see him be a little bit more calm in those situations, not take that bait, and talk more about the policy, because I think that's a winning policy thing for him. But on the flip side, she had her own bad moments. I thought with the Israel portion, she still has not really been able to commit one way or the other with that. Neither has Biden. And I think it's important, when you have a war like that, you need to commit to one side or the other and not try to both sides it, because what you end up doing is alienating both of them.
And tell me about just yourself. Are you a Trump supporter? Are you voting for him, or where are you?
Yeah, I would consider myself a Trump voter. I'm definitely a Republican first, rather than a Trump supporter first. But I was satisfied with his job during his first term. I thought he was going to easily win re-election until COVID came along, and that kind of changed the whole entire landscape of the world, really. But I'm a political science major. I'm very into politics. I lived in D.C. for a while, worked up there in Congress. So, I've seen firsthand how government can operate. And I think Trump is a good leader to have. He said it during the debate. He's an open book. Like, you never have to really guess what he's thinking. That's kind of a double-edged sword, because sometimes it gets him in trouble. But I'd rather have that as my leader than somebody where I'm not sure what they're standing on in certain issues. With him, there's no question of where he stands on every issue.
Do you think both candidates stayed on topic, or do you think maybe?
I think they both, like I said, they both kind of had their moments. I think she probably stayed on topic a little bit better than him. He, like I said, took the bait with the rally size comments. But, it wasn't super off script or super out of left field in a lot of the things. So I think they both did a fairly good job of that. But I'll give her credit for that. She probably did stay on topic more than he did.
As as far as the moderators, how do you think they did tonight?
I thought they were fairly good. They started to kind of fact check just him, I noticed. They didn't really do that to her, although she had some kind of blatant lies. But, overall, I think they did well. It was interesting with the muting, because I had heard before that as soon as they were done speaking, the microphones could be muted, like the CNN debate, but that sort of seemed to not be the case, where they kind of were able to bargain with the moderators, like, oh, well, I just need to reply to that real fast, just give me 1 minute, and they caved in each time, which I'm fine with if they cave in each time because it gives both the candidates the chances. So overall, they probably got a B from me if I had to grade them on an A to F scale. I think they did fine. They could have been a little better, but nothing groundbreaking.
They kind of tied climate change with young voters. Tell me about that. How do you feel about that?
I think climate change is real. I think anybody that's denying it at this point just isn't looking at the facts. Where I'd kind of differ is I don't think America is as responsible in the climate problem as Kamala might think we are. I think when you look at other countries, such as China, who has triple our population and virtually no regulations on the environment, that's where a lot of the climate issue is coming from. It's a worldwide issue. It's not an American issue. So, as far as what we do here, we do have a lot of regulations, especially compared to the other major powers in the world, like China, like Russia. We can only do so much as 300, 400 million people when you have countries like China and India who have, combined over 2 billion people. It's difficult for us to fix everything.
One of the last topics that they talked about was gun ownership. And Vice President Harris talked about having also tell me about that.
I was a little surprised she said that. Yeah, I was a little surprised.
Can you tell me, you just have a full sentence of what you're talking about? You were surprised about?
I was surprised that she said she had a gun. I don't know if that's true or not, but, I'll take her for her word. Look, she's an American citizen. I think that every American citizen should have a gun for personal protection. I think that it's one of the great things about our country is that we're allowed to be able to defend ourselves. And, I was surprised by the angle she took on that, considering, a lot of times Democrats will try to, if you bring up the gun debate, they'll bring up, school shootings, that stuff, banning automatic rifles. So it was an interesting approach by her. I thought she kind of actually tried to sway a little bit farther to the right, which is to be kind of expected in a general election. You want to pick up some middle ground voters. But her gun comment and then the comment about Israel, I thought was not what I expected from her. I expected her to remain on the left side of those issues, and she seems to take on a more centrist or even Republican approach.
Did anything stood out to you regarding their body language? Those exchanges that they had tonight?
Trump had the comment of, don't speak while I'm talking or whatever, obviously playing on her past comments in her debate with Pence. I thought that they both looked confident. They both looked good. I think her voice was a little shaky at the beginning. She came out a little bit nervous, but she found her groove after a few questions. Trump's done this, a million times. He always kind of projects that confidence. I didn't think he had any issues with that. Overall, they both look good.
Did Harris best Trump at any point make more sense or anything?
I think she was able to successfully get him off topic, specifically talking about the immigration stuff. Like I said, that's a kind of the slam dunk for the Republicans, as the abortion is the slam dunk for the Democrats. In the last debate, Trump did a great job of getting Biden off the topic of abortion. And tonight she did a good job of getting him off the topic of immigration with the crowd size comment. I thought she did really well there. She had other moments. I don't think, I agree with her that we don't have as many differences as maybe the media or social media will make us think. I'm of the belief that, there's 90% of the country falls somewhere in the middle, 5% is going to fall on the far right, 5% is going to fall on the far left. The problem is that with social media, those 5% on each side are the loudest voices on those platforms. So it's easy to look at, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and see, okay, we're divisive, we all hate each other. But in reality, you go out into the real world, it's not like that at all.
Do you feel like you witnessed history tonight?
It was significant. This was the first real debate, I guess you can say, because the Biden debate's obviously, something way in the past. It was interesting. I was very surprised that they shook hands at the beginning. That shocked me. I even joked, I'm like, I guarantee they don't do that. But, you know, she approached him. I thought that was a good move by her to approach him, to shake hands. And it was obviously a good move by her to not leave her, good move by him to not leave her hanging. So, yeah, you know, I mean, it felt significant. I feel like the final debate, though, will always be the most significant debate. That's going to be when everybody's truly paying attention. Right now, you know, I'd be interested to see what the ratings were. But, you know, as we get closer to the election and sort of more, you know, average people that aren't into politics as I am, pay attention. You know, we have October debates. Those, I think, will carry a little bit more weight. But, yeah, I mean, it was cool to see. Obviously, one of the great things about America is that we come together and we can debate. I thought that they actually did a pretty good job of not launching personal attacks tonight. They did their best to kind of stay away from that, especially Trump. He gets himself in a lot of trouble with that. It can make him look bitter. So, you know, I think, yeah, they did a good job, but I'll be interested to see how the next two go.
And just be here in North Carolina, consider a swing state.
Yes.
What do you make of the young voters and the difference they can make for this upcoming election?
Yeah, I mean, young voters, obviously Gen Z is a massive generation. And as the older voters start to pass away, yeah, you know, that kind of new reign comes in. Yeah, North Carolina is a very unique state. The fact that we've elected a Democrat governor in the past two elections, but also voted for Trump in the past two elections. It's very unique in that way that we are truly a purple state when you look at that. So I'm excited to live in a state that actually has a voice in the election.